Chase. Dr. Joe Griffin. Yeah. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching their talk is to broaden their vision, the things they were taught when they brought up as children. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin. It's Dr. Joe Griffin.
Yep. Y'all come on in. Y'all come on in.
I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching their talk is to broaden their vision, the things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. That ain't all that you hear me.
Yep.
Is the mentor.
Y'all come on in. We got a good professional development lined up today.
Persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin, yeah. He says recognize trauma, push past the pain. If you got a problem, go look at his frame. Work your perspective and look at it change. Find a goal, set it.
Come on in.
Manage time, self-awareness. These are the few of the things he's trying to get you to do every day. Do every day. Led 5 schools to increase test scores with his teacher principal collaboration. Things he give to you will have you take you drive to the next level. But first, you need to get some fuel at gas station. Supporting education leaders, creating a culture for kids that'll last for ages. Lack of access to quality professional development. That's outrageous. Got a doctorate in education, leadership, research, make changes. Need to put the kids first and raise them. Need to teach them they worth, stop playing. Later on, they gon' run this nation. Dr. Joe with his dissertation taught to those who would fix, make changes. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intentions to teaching and talk is to broaden their vision, the things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. They ain't know that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology, really. Dream but persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin.
Great day, leaders. Welcome to the Speaking Life and You Leadership live stream. I am your host, Dr. Joe Griffin, where we talk leadership dynamics, personal and professional growth, educational trends, and provide solutions to help you with school improvement. Let's go! Week 35, you all. Week 35. Man, time flies, doesn't it, you all? Doesn't time fly when you're having fun, when you're doing what you love to do, when you're in a space and a place where you're trying your best to give back and empower people, and you feel good about it. It's a great feeling. So I'm thankful. Week 35. If you all don't congratulate, I'm gonna congratulate myself on this one today, you all, because we got to affirm things. We've got to keep our lives in context. And today we have quite the professional development for you. And got that little music coming in. Let me get that off of there. So when you start to think about where we are today, first I want to welcome everyone. Sign in. Let me know where you're streaming in from. That is so important. I definitely want to know where you are streaming in from. And as we get ready to go into today's PD, I just want to first off, again, thank you all. And we're gonna get to it today. One thing that I want to definitely know is how you holding up. How are you holding up right now during these times? Because you got to think about what we have going on. You're coming toward the end of the year. Many of you will be testing in probably 2 to 6 weeks. I know some people will start early April, mid-April, and then some people won't end until mid-May or what have you. So what are you doing to ensure that you are leading and teaching on a full battery? Wow, I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute because we got to be intentional in our practices. We've got to be intentional about how we're ensuring that our battery is full. A couple of things that we're going to talk about during today's PD. SEL, we're going to look at it as a leadership tool. I'm going to give you 5 instructional practices that you can use coming down the stretch to help you boost up your test scores, to boost up your atmosphere. And then we're going to look at about 3 cultural implementations that you can also use to ensure that you're in a good space and a good place across the next few weeks. And I had an opportunity this past week to present at CASA, California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators, CAAASA, and it was a wonderful experience. Got a chance to enjoy the many participants, the many presenters. I was a presenter myself. I had the opportunity to present Empowering Educational Communities, a collaborative framework for equity and excellence. And that's actually what we've been talking about the last few weeks or so as well. We've been breaking it down as far as the different and many perspectives that go along within the framework. So when you think about that, and you're always constantly pushing toward being your better self so that you can again inspire other people, that means so much. That means so much. So we want to always be constantly thinking about how we can empower others. And the thing about that, if I am well, I can share my best self with others. I'm going to say that again, you all. If I'm well, I can share my best self with others. And I'm going to come back to that here in just a moment. And as you are thinking about these particular things, when you're thinking about ensuring that you are well, ensuring that you're in a good space, in a good place, appreciate your brother Reggie Hankerson shouting us out. Definitely appreciate it. When you are in a good space, in a good place, and you're creating that for yourself, you've got to think about everything. Of course, we talk about reviewing, reflecting, reshaping, and revitalizing those 4 hours that I bring up so often, right? But in doing so, I'm going to break this down for you all today. So hang in there with me. You got to give yourself a break. What do you mean, Dr. Joe? Give yourself a break. Now, I don't mean go take off for a week. I don't mean go take off. I don't even mean go and take off for a day unless that's absolutely necessary. But give yourself a break. You got this. You are worthy. You have put in the work. You've been in your spot for a reason. And you're in your position for a reason. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a leader, whatever the case, whether you're district level, whether you're building level, you are worthy. Give yourself a break. What I mean by give yourself a break is everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has obstacles. Everyone has adversity. There's no leadership position that has ever come without persecution. Wow. I'm going to say that again for you because we got to understand that this is a part of the territory when you step in a teacher position, when you step in a principal position, when you step in a district level administrative position. There's no leadership position that goes without persecution. So you got to give yourself a break. That doesn't mean that the people that's already in position or the people you see that out in front of you, that don't mean that they're better than you. Perhaps they put in more work. Perhaps they've been doing it a little bit longer, but you are still worthy. You still bring the same amount of energy. You still bring the same amount of knowledge. Perhaps you have to package it a little bit different. Perhaps you have to be a little bit more out front, outspoken. Depends on what the case is. But whatever it is, you are worthy. And with this being Women's History Month, you don't want to forget people like Simone Biles. She had to take a break. She had to take a break. Remember, she was winning those medals, but the mental challenges overcame her or overwhelmed her for a moment. She had to take a break. But guess what? When she came back from that break, she was even better, right? Think about Venus and Serena Williams. What if every single time they made a serve that wasn't what it needed to be, they couldn't come back stronger and better the next time? They couldn't erase that feeling of making that mistake out of their heads. Steph Curry, what if when he missed a shot, he didn't have the confidence to keep shooting? Think about it. When a quarterback throws an interception, they're expected to still come back the next time and act like nothing ever happened, right? So we have to be able to do the same things in education. Perhaps there's an apology that needs to be made. Perhaps there's a relationship that needs to be fixed so that you can continue moving yourself and your team forward. But remember, give yourself a break. You're not the only person that made a mistake. If there was a teaching strategy that didn't go well the first time you used it, but you know that research says, and you heard other teachers talk about how powerful the strategy is, you got to go back and try it again. Give yourself a break. That first time failure, that doesn't mean anything. It's only a lesson. We can't even look at it as failure. It's got to be a lesson to help us keep going through it all, you all. If y'all hear me, like, comment, subscribe. I definitely appreciate you. We got a heck of a PD for you today, and I'm definitely excited. I did a coffee today. Yeah, I did a coffee today, so I'm definitely feeling good. But like, comment, subscribe, and as we get into it, I want to also add this to your conversation. If I'm well, I can share my best self with others. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute because we're gonna read a quick passage here in a moment. But if I'm well, I can share my best self with others. Let's see here, you. I'm gonna pull this up real quick, and then we're gonna break this down today. If I am well, I can share my best self with others. You say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, as you know, we've been looking at the 3 sense leadership model, and we talked about individuality and diversity, and we're now moving toward belonging and acceptance, being able to have that collaborative framework to be able to create the environment that you desire, that culture of collaboration. So as we dive into belonging and acceptance, I definitely want you to think about what we've been doing as far as the last couple of weeks, empowering our educational community. We resolve conflicts positively, and we strive for excellence, and we prioritize our emotional well-being as an educator. I prioritize my emotional well-being as an educator. Let me hear you say it. I might can't hear you, but say it to yourself. Put it in the chat. I've also placed a couple of questions in the chat for you this week. But if I am well, I can share my best self with others. Let's see what that first paragraph in that chapter looks like. Then we're gonna get into it, you all. Live. In years past, it wasn't the emotional well-being of teachers that educators prioritize, but it's a new day and age in education. Society has come to understand that there are heavy burdens placed on educators, expectations to sometimes hold back human reactions, think before every word comes out of their mouth, and sometimes empathize with others without taking time to ensure their own wellness. Today, we rebuke that theory because it's become accepted that principals and teachers can only give their best to students and the school community if they prioritize their emotional well-being, ensuring stability to meet the expectation of improving our schools. Wow. And we're going to dive into that here in a moment. And when you think about if I am well, I can share my best self with others. You say, well, what are you saying? What exactly are you saying when you say that if I'm well, I can share my best self with others? First off, let me break it down. Your energy is your curriculum. You know I love making analogies, you all. Your energy is your curriculum. Just like a lesson plan, your energy gives you clarity. Your energy gives you focus. Your energy gives you strategy versus stress. Your energy is your curriculum. You say, how is that possible? Well, if I've got my plan in place and I've taken the necessary time to prioritize my well-being. That means my energy is up to be able to provide that curriculum, right? So your energy is your curriculum. So we got to make sure that we're prioritizing our well-being so that we can truly, truly, truly deliver the curriculum. You can't do it if you're not at your best, or you can't do it your best if you're not at your best. Let me say it that way. Secondly, your centering, it helps your students focus. If your students feel like you are in a place of not being pressured or not being stressed about the test, that allows them to be able to focus better. So we've got to stay centered. We can't allow ourselves to be stressed out to the point where it shows, to the point where we provide stress to other people, because stress can be contagious. So it's important that we monitor that. And as we get into SEL a little bit, we're going to kind of talk about some ways in which we can be more self-aware in order to monitor our centeredness for students. When you're preparing for a test, you're not just preparing students for a test. You're preparing them for life. You're preparing them to go through life and meet obstacles, to go through life and do the impossible, to go through life and be able to, number one, read proficiently so that they can do well on these tests. But secondly, you prepare them for resilience that goes along with life. And instruction builds skill, but SEL builds that resilience. SEL builds resilience, but instruction builds skill. If y'all hear what I'm saying, like, comment, subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. Let's see what we got here in the comments. Appreciate you chiming in. Good afternoon, Dr. McKeever Jeter. Definitely appreciate you from Calumet City. We've got Brother Robert Curtin in on the comments as well. Definitely appreciate you, Brother Curtin. Definitely appreciate you. So as we continue and push down through what we're discussing today, prioritizing our well-being so that we can have a full battery down this home stretch, we got to understand that SEL is a leadership tool. It's a performance enhancer. It's not just for kids, and it's not something extra. Y'all, we've got a new change in administration, and it's okay. It's totally okay. But there's no way that we can go through schools and not ensure that we are caring for others. SEL is a tool to ensure that we're caring for ourselves as well as for others. So it's not a good look for us to think that SEL is not crucial, that it's not important to what we're trying to accomplish as educators. And time out is for the non-collaboration. We got to collaborate with more than just our locale, more than just our school district. We've got to organize. We've got to ensure that over the next 10, 15, 20 years that we're putting students in the best situation where they can be those proficient learners that we want them to be. So we've got to ensure that we're looking at SEL as a leadership tool and it not being just for the kids. And it's not something extra. It's something that we should be constantly doing every single day. It provides safety measures. And I posted it wasn't a poem. Well, somewhat was a poem that I picked up from Costa this past weekend. In that particular writing, it said that there no such thing as a safe space. And that hit a little different for me because we always talking about creating safe spaces. And true enough, there's no such thing as a safe space, but we want to ensure that our spaces are as safe as we can make them. And by ensuring that SEL principles, SEL competencies are used, we are making sure that we not only take care of our kids, but we also take care of the adults that we are attempting to make sure they educate our kids. If we want our teachers, our leaders to pass it down to students, we got to ensure that we've provided them with the proper mindset training to be able to implement SEL features, SEL traits. So this is crucial. Consistency plus well-being equal performance. It's not just about the standards, y'all. It's not just about the standards. It's about stamina. It's about strategy. It's about spirit. So when you think about that, and we put SEL in the context, we can't do without it. We can't do without it. When you're talking about creating spaces where students and teachers and leaders feel like they belong and that they're accepted, because belonging and acceptance, that's two different things. I can feel like I belong in a place, but that does not mean that I'm accepted. And vice versa. I can be accepted in a place, but that does not mean I feel like I belong in that space. So belonging and acceptance come together. And when you're talking about striving for excellence, you're talking about resolving conflicts positively. When you're talking about prioritizing your emotional well-being, you got to understand that SEL helps with that too. And you say, well, what do you mean? Take it a step further, Dr. Joe. I can do that for you, you all. I can definitely do that for you. First off, ask yourselves, are you self-aware? Are you self-aware? Are you currently understanding your current situation? Are you protecting your energy? Are you protecting your focus? Do you realize exactly when you're preparing for this testing season? You've looked at it, you've calculated, you've thought about what it's going to take for you to ensure that you are in a well space for students, and you're prioritizing that, because this is so that we can have peak performance. So are you overloaded? Are you overwhelmed? But again, let's make that self-check, you all. Are you self-aware? You ask yourself, are you managing yourself? Self-management. What am I doing to manage myself? Well, emotional checks. How am I feeling today? How am I feeling today? Remember, I asked you at the top of the show, how you holding up? Well, self-management allows you to kind of regulate that, because we are in control of our feelings, our thoughts, our beliefs, right? So we have to understand that being able to manage ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, that's crucial. All right. So think about that as well. Socially aware. Are you socially aware of your students? Right? Your vibe influences the tribe. You ever heard that statement? Your vibe influences the tribe. So are you socially aware? Are you being empathetic to students? Are you paying them attention? Are you giving them the necessary relationship that they need to be able to move to those next levels over the next week? And I add this here. As you prepare to go on this test, and it's whether you're a leader or a teacher, some of those relationships that haven't gone well with students this year, let's fix them. Let's fix them. That boost of confidence that you can give a student right now as they prepare to go into testing because you have fixed the relationship. Do you know the power in that? And that could be the biggest difference over the next 2 to 6 weeks, depending on when you're testing. But it's crucial. It's important that you take the time to reconcile those differences. Very, very crucial, you all. Are you connecting with students? Are you building relationships? Are you connecting with the adults in your building? You know, this is crucial. All of this drives motivation, and having those healthy relationships, that helps to be able to make sure that you're in a good SEL space with your staff and your students. Are you making decisions that promote empowerment and peace? I'll take my glasses off for that one, because it's got to sink in. Are your decisions promoting empowerment and peace? Are you lifting up others? Are you putting people in a position where they can be successful? Or do your decisions tear at people? Or do your decisions create divisiveness? Or do your decisions bring teams together so that we can maximize the talent? Because remember, if we're isolating people, that's just one. We need the power of multiple to be able to create a movement. So are your decisions empowering people, or are they holding people back? Very good question, y'all. And I'm gonna just let that sink in for a moment, you all. What are we doing to ensure that we are on top with our SEL? As we know, it is a leadership and performance tool coming down the pike, you all. We got 4 to 6 weeks as you preparing for testing, and I want you ready. I want those kids to do better than they ever thought they could have done. I know how that feels to be able to help students excel beyond what they thought imaginable. I know how it feels to help teachers to be able to be successful beyond what they thought was imaginable. So we got to ensure that we're always building that teacher capacity as well as our student leadership through those SEL principles. All right. So very, very crucial, you all. And when you're thinking about SEL as a leadership tool, as you go into this testing season, I want to definitely give you some nuggets, some things that you can take into the testing season. All right. Some instructional priorities that you can use coming down this stretch, because it is crucial that you continue to provide students with high quality access to their learning. It's also crucial that you continue to provide teachers with high access professional development. We can't stop. Take you a break. Like we said, give yourself a break, take you a break, but then you got to get back to it. After those world-class athletes train for hours at a time, they take them a break, but then they might come back for that second session later in the day, because you got to continue to build those muscles. You got to make it a part of you. And we're going to take that break, get that emotional well-being, but then we want to be able to do that so that we can come back even stronger. 5 instructional priorities for testing season, you all. Let's go. Warm up with a purpose. Warm-ups help to build the confidence. You might call them power-ups. You might call them do now. Whatever you call your power-ups or your do nows, your bell ringers, warm up with a purpose. You say, what does that look like? What do you mean warm up with a purpose? Well, those bell rings, they got to look like the state test examples. They got to match in complexity as well as format. So that means I'm pulling from state test samples. That means I'm pulling from ACT, depending on the grade level that you're preparing for tests, because you got your elementary up through your high school test, and then you got your college entrance test. You've got your stakeholder test, your national test. So again, all of this is crucial. Use those bell ringers, warm up with a purpose, you all. Make sure that they're aligned to the standards that you're testing, but warm up with a purpose. This is crucial. You talk about another instructional priority, intentional modeling and guided practice. Wow. So you've gone through the entire school year, and this may be something that you need to revisit, because I know that being in schools and being a leader, being a teacher, sometimes as educators, once we get through a certain point in the year, our routines kind of slack off. We stop going through the entire lesson line structure, where we go from the bell ringer to the anticipatory set to the I do, we do, you do model, right? And then we do independent practice. But however, we want to ensure that now is the time we go back, we model, and then we still do that guided practice. So we may have already reviewed the objectives, but now it's come a time where we need to refocus on what that modeling looks like. You may have students who miss steps, that didn't understand pieces of the instruction. And when scaffolding, and I've got a whole segment on just scaffolding as well in the YouTube library. So make sure you go back to that one as well. But that intentionally model helps to scaffold some of those objectives for students. So you show it, you walk it, you rehearse it, and then you have students repeat it. Show it, walk it, rehearse it, have students repeat it. Show it, walk it, rehearse it, and have students repeat it. All right. Now, so that's 2, right? That's 2 things that you can do right now that you can reinforce. And I'm sure the good leaders, the good principals, the great teachers, they've already been doing that. But even with that, again, we can always reiterate, right? We don't want to ever be too big that we can't hear a strategy reiterated that can give us a boost right now, that can help our teachers right now put students in a better position. If y'all hear what I'm saying, like, comment, subscribe, you all, because we're going through these strategies today. I know that someone, somewhere, multiple people are going to benefit from the strategies that we're providing. That brings me joy. That brings me joy, I tell you. All right. So formative checks every 10 to 15 minutes, right? Again, this is revisiting something that you probably already started at the beginning of the year, but now you want to come back, have those formative checks every 10 to 15 minutes. So if you're on a 50 to 60 minute per day schedule, every 10 minutes, you want to have some type of formative check. Now, this is going to mean that you're going to have to do a little bit extra planning, but this is crucial during this time of the season. Testing season is approaching. This is the best time of the year. This is the time of the year that you built for. This is the time of the year that you educate for. So you got to be excited about what's about to take place. All right. So in doing that, formative checks every 10 minutes in a 60-minute class. If you got a 90-minute block or more, at least every 12 to 15 minutes, some type of formative check. And these could be emotional checks as well as academic data checks. Thumbs up, thumbs down, exit slips, peer strategies to share out, right? Because we know the students learn best when they work with other students. So you be able to kind of lose control in order to gain control as the facilitating educator. Lose control to gain control as the facilitating educator. So formative checks every 10 to 15 minutes. This is crucial. This is a great thing to highlight with your teachers and your leaders right now. So if you're paying attention, if you're with us, make sure you take a note right there, because this may be something that they just haven't been doing recently. That just hasn't been happening. But remember, you're trying to get every little inch you can as you prepare for state testing. And that means that students are going to be more prepared. We want to ensure that we implement it. These strategies don't cost you anything, you all. All right. Peer coaching. And you've probably been using peer coaching as well. But now is the time to really influx those strategies. All right. Let students explain their answers to each other. Let them help each other. This is going to boost the confidence as well as the community. Because remember, these are probably the same students that they're going to be testing with come testing day. So why not make this even more of a community as we come down the stretch these last 2 to 6 weeks as you prepare for testing. Remember, we've got tests starting in a couple of weeks in some states and some places. And then you got some that won't test until early or mid-May. Whatever the case, now's the time. You still got time to ensure that your students are prepared. Fifth instructional strategy that you can use right now to boost up your test scores prior to test. And the good thing about it, you're still building capacity. You know, we don't want to teach to the test on any day. But of course, state legislator, national priorities say that we have to prepare students for those tests, right? So we want to ensure that everything we do builds skills that align with those tests. So, and in doing so, we know that visuals accelerate the learning by 65 to 400%, depending on the individual, right? Yeah. I didn't mistake that, you all. Visuals increase learning by 65 to not 100, but 65 to 400%, depending on the individual learner. So if I know that, and I think about that as a leader, as a teacher, as an educator in any educational system, any educational organization, I know that visuals need to have a high priority, right? And we may have already talked about it in professional development. We may have gone through it a time or two over the year, but now is the time that we're going to reiterate it. Not only are we going to reiterate it, we're going to have a whole nother initiative right now. Anchor charts, visual cues. We want to put up all of the formulas that they could potentially have to use, whether it's science formulas, whether it's math formulas. We want to put up the timelines for our history classes. We want to put up any writing strategies that we going to have our students use. Any way that they're going to be able to help remember literary devices and things of that nature. Whatever the subject is, we want to now put up more visuals. Decorate your rooms with the visuals that are going to prepare students for testing. All right. Let your walls talk to them. Remember, visuals increase the learning by 65 to 400%. And if I know that as an educator, if I don't immediately have an emphasis on visuals, I'm cheating students, because that's not something that I have to do in addition. That's something all I have to do is pull. I can pull visuals that go along with the lesson that outline the models. You know, that's why we always want to show the framework, show the way that it's supposed to be done, right? We just talked about modeling. So again, you're talking about warm-ups with a purpose. That was one. We talked about intentional modeling plus your guided practice. We talked about formative checks every 10 to 15 minutes. We talked about an increase in peer coaching, and we talked about an increase in the use of visuals. That's 5 instructional strategies that you can use right now over the next 2 to 6 weeks as you prepare for state testing that will give you a boost if you use them. Now, if you don't use them, if there's no discussion with your educators about this information that we're discussing, that we're reiterating, of course, you can expect no extra growth. And you just continue doing those exact same strategies that you've been doing without the extra boost. You'll stay consistent, but sometimes we need something to give us that extra boost to get us over the hump. So I know that there's something in those particular strategies that you can pull from and that you can use, right? Structure is not about feeling. It's about how we handle things, right? So with that being said, couple of cultural implementations that you can use prior to the test. All right. And we're talking about right now, that you can use right now. And as you're going into the last, what I like to call fourth quarter of the stretch run, as you get ready to turn the bases and go toward home plate, some cultural implementations for testing season. We just talked about the importance of SEL. We talked about some instructional practices that you can implement right now. But what about some cultural implementations that you can use to ensure that that SEL piece is being monitored and that instruction has the proper chance to build student skills? What? The proper chance to build student skills? Yes, because if your students and adults are not in the proper space, how can we expect the skills to build? So, mood meters. This is a good one for you, teachers. Also a good one for you leaders, because leaders, you got to check on your teachers right now. You need to know that they're in a good space every single day. And if they're not, what can you do to help them be in a better space? What type of emotional support do you need to give to your teachers so that they can be instructionally proficient? And then you bump that down to your teachers. What type of emotional support do your teachers need to give your students so they can be prepared to test with success? These are things that you got to think about. It just doesn't happen. We've got to be intentional about ensuring that we provide spaces and places where our students can perform as best as possible. Spaces and places where our teachers can perform as best as possible. So we got to, again, prioritize their emotional well-being so that we can teach and lead from a full battery. Wow. So mood meter checks. You all make sure they're in a good space and start there with yourself. Check your own mood first. We talked about a little bit in self-awareness, but each day, make it a practice to check on you, right? You can't just check on everybody else and not check on you. So you've also got to ensure that you are well. If I am well, I can share my best self with others. One-on-ones with selected staff and students. Now, we've been talking about data talks. We've talked about discussions one-on-one. So I'm sure you've already done those across the year, right? You've already done all of those, your data talks. You probably have done formal evaluations at this point. You've done some one-on-one coaching. You've given some feedback sessions, right? But now, again, we're preparing specifically for these next 2 to 6 weeks as you prepare for testing. One-on-ones for selected staff and students. Now, specifically, you're talking about your struggling people. You want to give them an extra boost, let them know that you're with them, that you're supporting them. What more can you do for them as we prepare to go down this home stretch? This will buy you a lot more energy from the people because they need that boost. Again, remember, we talked earlier about our energy being our curriculum, our energy being our lesson plan. So I need to be ensured that as the leader, I got structures in place to make sure your energy is uplifted. And me checking on you, that's going to help, especially if I know you're struggling, because that person knows they're struggling as well. And then they're going to feel like that you really care about them. And you're checking on them because you really do. So now, once we built that connection, now I want to empower you to go even stronger, harder, and longer over the next 2 to 4 weeks as we prepare for testing. Another thing that you can do over these next few weeks, add an additional decompression zone. And it could be in the lounge, but if it's in the lounge, it needs to be away from the people. It needs to be an area that teachers primarily can go to relax. Hopefully you already have a decompression zone for students. If you don't, that needs to be a priority as well. But decompression zones, we have to be socially aware. Everyone is not affected by testing the same way. It provides stress, feelings of overwhelmness for some. So we've got to be aware of that. Remember that some people just don't test well. Some people know all of the answers on the test, but get to it and can't do well. Some teachers know all of the information that are on the test, but they have problems facilitating and transferring that information to students. So we've got to have decompression zones where people can go and think about their performance. Wow. Think about your performance. What does that look like? Well, when I think about my performance, I want to take myself out of it. So I want to go to an area that I can decompress. I want to be able to take my mind and body to a free space, lift up, be able to kind of look back down on the situation out of my own body, but still in my mind, and look at what happens in that environment. This is a strategy to decompress. And you start to realize, wow, I'm not as bad as I thought I was. I am pretty good. I can keep going. I am re-energized and revitalized because I've taken myself out of the situation. Then I look back at myself. I saw some things that I could be doing to re-energize myself, to give myself that energy that I need coming down the home stretch. So again, these are a few cultural implementations that you can do coming down the home stretch. Your move meter checks, that's for your teachers as well as for your students, leaders. Your one-on-ones with selected staff and students. And to kind of reiterate that, even those data talks that you've already had with your students, revisit some of them. Revisit those students that are on the borderline, that are right there going to proficient. Revisit those students that are on the borderline of coming out of that last bracket of minimum. Give them what they need. All right. So all of that is crucial. And we on fire today, you all. Woo! I hope you all have been grabbing this information. Then, of course, the decompression zones that we just talked about as well. So those are some instructional strategies that you can use right now. Those are some cultural implementations that you can use right now for testing season as well. So I hope all that information has been extremely, extremely valuable for you all. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, you all. We know that personal development drives professional development. All right. Personal development drives professional development. So with that, I do want to give you a couple of PD takeaways also, a couple of things that you can take with you this week. I told you we had a good professional development lined up for you today. And I know that it's been of value to someone somewhere. And look, we appreciate you all. I appreciate you all for joining in with me every single week. This is week 35. If you have not seen the other professional development, make sure you go back. Make sure you go back, check those out, because we've given you some information that you can help not only school improve, but also increase collaboration, increase student outcomes, and raise teacher capacity. So, a couple of things. Knowing that my commitment to wellness equals my students' success, I want to give you a couple of PD takeaways, you all. First off, align yourself with 2 practices that you commit to doing this week to prioritize your well-being. 2 things you can do this week to prioritize your emotional well-being. 2 things I do every week, and I sometimes do multiple times, all the time do the sauna multiple times a week. I go to the sauna probably 4 to 5 times a week, and I in there at least 30 minutes. I read in there, I stretch, but that's for me. Allows me time to think, allows me time to process, allows me an opportunity to sweat. We need that. All right. So I want you to commit to 2 practices that you commit to doing to prioritize your well-being this week. Another thing that I do, and you all probably see me all the time posting the different views. I love going to a viewpoint. It gives me an opportunity to see diverse perspectives. I feel like every time I go up there, something is revealed to me, something powerful, something magnetic. So I go find the different viewpoints. I've got about probably 15 to 17 different viewpoints saved in my phone. And I sometimes go to the closest ones or the ones that if I'm in that particular area that day, but I go there because you can see so much. And when you're up there and you're looking down and you're seeing all of this activity, you know that you play an integral part in it. You see the movement. You see how people are operating. And of course, you're way up, but just the perspective of everything that is happening right now, that is a centering practice for me. It allows me to center myself, allows me to stay grounded, allows me to keep going. So commit to 2 practices. All right. Another thing I want you to do is recommit to your why, your wellness, and your work. I had to let that sink for a minute, you all. Recommit to your why. And of course, we know why is further driven by purpose. But recommit to your why, recommit to your wellness, and this allows you to better recommit to your work. So we want to stay grounded, stay full. All right. Let's see what we got here in the comments, you all. Man, it's been a good one today. Appreciate you, Dr. McKeever G. We are definitely trying our best to help everyone who wants to help. Everyone who wants to help. That's what it's all about when it comes down to me. Thank you, Miss Danielle Lamb, for joining us. Right. Dr. McKeever G said, you see your students, but do you know your students? Woo, that's a good one. You see them, but do you know them? You know, crucial, you all. So coming down the stretch, you want to make sure that those are some things that you're doing, you're preparing to just be the best you can be. Testing season won't take care of itself, but you can take care of testing season. You can blast them. You got to believe. You got to illustrate that belief. You got to pass it down from your teachers, and your teachers will pass it down to your students. So often we give these professional developments. We give these wonderful, wonderful trainings, and we want teachers and educators to implement, but we haven't given them proper mindset development that goes along with the training. So think about that. How can I properly implement a strategy, but I don't have the matching mindset that goes with that implementation, or a mindset that matches? Because it might not be the matching mindset, but it may be a mindset that matches. And I just want that to sink, because that's something that we have to think about as educators and as leaders, you all. Again, we've been coming the last few weeks from Empowering Educational Communities, a guide for teacher-principal collaboration. So I definitely appreciate the support on that. If you have not picked it up, definitely pick it up. If you don't have the DIP approach for educators, make sure you pick it up. DIP approach, discipline culture plus instructional practices equals performance. And everything we do is aligned. If you haven't noticed, everything that we do is aligned. You know, we talk about instructional, cultural, and organizational leadership goals and pillars. We align that with our connection, empowerment, and collaboration. And then we always talk about our journey, the intentionality of that journey, and then the mindset that accompanies that journey. And that is the 3x3 Sense leadership framework. And of course, there's more that goes into that as well, but just on the basis, that pretty much encompasses that framework. So next week, we'll keep going. We're still on the belonging and acceptance. So as we close out, I prioritize my emotional well-being as an educator. Affirm it, say it, believe it, know it to be true. If there are any needs to reach out to me, please feel free. There's my information, you all. I'm just a sponge. I'm just a sponge doing what I'm being told to do by the powers above me. And I just want to give back. And that's what it's all about. We did talk about the other instructional cultural resources that we have as well. So ensure that you definitely pick those up. And just stay tapped in with me, you all. Week 36. Next week is going to definitely be another powerful professional development. It's all about improving. It's all about being the best that we can be. And as I sign out, I definitely want to encourage you to continue to love and to lead with your heart. Continue to seek wisdom so that we can find and live in our purpose. And continue to be courageous so that we can drown out all fear and empower those around us. You all have the best day. Dr. Joe signing off, always speaking and writing life into you. Love what you do. DIP approach, empowering educational communities.